up a dive. Feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember I share and subscribe. Join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Paranormal Spectrum here on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones. Today's episode is live. We are in studio, so if you guys have any questions or comments throughout the show, throw them in the comments section, and we will get to them as soon as we can. With that being said, oops, wrong button. There we go. Okay. We are going to, coming up this year, March 21st through the 22nd, we are kicking off our convention season here for CAPS with Obscura Paracon. We are going to be in DeKalb, Illinois for this event, 2-day event. It's going to be in an awesome little castle down there, so looking forward to that. You can get all the information at obscuraparacon.com. And then May 1st through the 3rd, we had to Delavan, Wisconsin for Contact Modalities Expo. All awesome, great guests here. Looking forward to spending the weekend with them, including fellow Untold Radio host Dean Bertram will also be there. So if you're a fan of his show, you can meet him and myself at this event. And then, guys, we head to Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Convention Saturday, May 9th in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Bigfoot, paranormal, metaphysical, UFO, cryptid, all under one roof. We have 2 speaker rooms, 40 vendors, workshops, a Bigfoot expedition for both the kids and the adults, kicking off our Friday night. So a daytime hike for the kids, educational, informational, as well as the nighttime hike. Tickets are still available for both of these. You can get them at wisconsincaps.com. All the information for all these events is at wisconsincaps.com/public events tab. Then, guys, we head down to the Chicago Paranormal Convention Saturday, June 13th in Countryside, Illinois. And way out in October, I will be at the Rio Community Library as well as the Belleville County Library, Community Library. So that's what we got coming up this year. But right now, we have an awesome guest, and we are live, so let's get to it. My guest today is Robin Haynes. She started her journey with cryptids and the paranormal at a young age. Most of her life was spent learning from them. Eventually, she met others who were involved with the Sasquatch. From there, she did conferences as well as various shows and podcasts and shared with others what she was taught. She has had many experiences in the paranormal world, and now she continues with her experiences and enjoying working with others about their personal journeys. She is here to share all of her information and stories with us today. Please welcome Robin Haynes. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It was my pleasure. Definitely looking forward to hearing all about your stuff today. So,
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I know. Yeah. So let's start at the very beginning. Well, let's start with right now. Like, you are a what do you consider yourself?
I have no idea. An experiencer. Everybody will be like, "Oh, you're a researcher." You know, here's the thing. Have I gone out in the woods? Have I gotten, cast footprints, hair samples? We did get blood one time because one had stepped on a stick and cut his foot. I don't think I'm a researcher. I have worked with the Sasquatch Genome Project. I'm currently working with the Cryptid Genome Project. I'm an experiencer. All of this stuff found me. I never went out looking for it. It started when I was extremely small. I could mind speak before I could talk. And it was just the way my life developed. So I just don't think of it any other way. I do have psychic things that I do. I get premonitions. I can do psychic readings. I work with a lot of people. I teach them how to use frequency and energy, which is what the cryptids and the ETs use within their system to learn how to tap into their own abilities. I teach people how to use their abilities in a good way. I do anything paranormal at this point, but I really am strong on this. I am not an expert. I do not personally believe there are any experts in this field. If anybody says they are, please run the other way. We will never know all of it. And so, like, when I get asked questions, I'm happy to answer people's questions, but I'm also a person that if I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you flat out, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't want to mislead anybody the wrong way. And when I do answer, it comes from my heart. It's what I've been taught. I have not been taught anything out of anybody's books or by studying. I learned from the cryptids. I've learned from the Earthkeeper, from the ETs, elementals, dimensionals, all of those things. So that's kind of my background.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's start at the beginning because you said that this all started at a very young age.
Yeah.
So you've had extraterrestrial encounters, ETs. You've had abduction encounters and stuff like this. You've had premonitions, all these things. What was the first thing that happened? What was the turning point, as far as you can remember, that started this all?
As far back as I can remember, I remember hearing everything talking to me in my head. And I remember listening to that and responding to that more than I would verbal. And I was little. I was learning how to talk. And then I remember, and my mom confirmed it later. She said when I was like 2 or 3 years old and I was able to verbalize things, I would tell her about my friends. And the description I gave matches a dogman and a Sasquatch. So, that kind of confirmed a little bit for me. I remember as a young child looking out the window and seeing their faces as they looked back in the window at me. And then I also remember being outside and riding my bike to the end of where a road was at. And I was quite young, younger than what we would let our kids go out of range now. Back then it was safer than it is now. And there was woods there, and they had all these big dirt piles, and we would like, make sand dirt castles down there, and we would ride our bikes over the hills and things. And I remember 3 or 4 of them that would come out and just stand there and watch me while I played. I actually had a friend of mine that I had not talked to in a long time reach out to me on Facebook and said, "Do you remember when we were 13 and you took me out in the woods and introduced me to Sasquatch?" And I'm like, "I don't even remember it, but okay." Doesn't surprise me. It's just always been part of my life. Like, I don't remember a time without them, without cryptids, without ETs. Like, the first time is we were talking before the show, the first time I remember an abduction, I was roughly 4. From what I can remember, it would be right around 4 or 5 max, probably around 4. And I remember everything inside the ship. I remember what was said to me. I remember one of them that reached out and took my hand. They had said I'd been there before. And as I was explaining to you, it was very odd because I should have been frightened. Any young child should have been frightened.
Mm-hmm.
I was extremely relaxed and calm. I mean, so when they said, "Well, you've been there before," I'm not surprised, because the reaction that I was having while there, they had when you looked through this arched doorway, and it had glyphs all the way around the door. And when you looked through, there was a man on this table. And the machine looked like a modern day CAT scan machine, which we did not have CAT scan machines back then.
Mm-hmm.
They had not come out with them. And I watched him on there, and there was 2 tall grays there. There was a small gray that was also in the room. And then, of course, there was a small gray in the room I was in, and then another small gray that was in front of me talking to me. And I saw this man on the table, and I saw the machine go. And you know how CAT scan machines, it has that circular piece that goes around you up by the head. And I remember watching that thinking, what are they doing? And he just laid there. I never saw them do anything that was hurting him. He was unconscious. He was not moving around at all.
Do you remember, you said they've talked to you, told you you've been there before and stuff. Do you remember them telling you, and this could be then or up till now, why you, what they're doing, anything of that nature?
The age-old question. I wish I knew. They have taken a lot of DNA samples for me. I'm not Rh negative. That's the first thing everybody asks me. Are you Rh negative? No, I'm not. But I am O positive, and O positive is a universal blood type that can be used for everything. It has to do with that, I'm sure, is part of it. There's some other things that I suspect, nothing that is conclusive. I would ask them why am I here? Well, you're needed. Okay, what am I needed for other than a guinea pig? What am I needed for? And I did not get an answer. They would talk about, your frequency is higher than others. But that came when I was older, that they started talking to me about the frequency. At that point, I was a little kid, and they're like, well, no, you're special. We want you here. I'm like, I'm not special. Why am I here? Like, I didn't believe it for a second. I don't think that was true. I think that's just what they told me because I was a child. You always want your little kids to feel special. So I don't think that had any significant meaning whatsoever.
So you mentioned the story of your 13-year-old friend, or when you were 13, taking you out in the woods. Did you talk about this stuff like in school?
Not really. No, because I did a few people. She was one that I would have confided in because we were very close around that time. I did talk to very few people about it. I was always that kid that when you were in the car with your parents and we were driving down the road, other kids would be looking out the window at cars and buildings, not me. I'm looking down the road to see if I see a Sasquatch running through the woods. Do I see a stick structure? By age 5, I was like stick structure girl. I want everything I could find that it was a structure. And I'd be, nope, that's not one. Yep, that is. I could find footprints when other people couldn't. And I would be able to feel them. Okay, everything comes down to frequency and energy. That's the way it works. Quantum physics is massive in this stuff. But when I was even 4 and 5, I could feel where they were. And I would just be drawn to it. And then I'd get over there and they'd start talking and they would be there. So as far as people knowing, I asked my parents around age 5 if they could tell me more about Sasquatch. It wasn't even out in the books yet. They didn't know. But they never said I was lying. They thought it was an imaginary friend, honestly. And they were just like, sorry, we don't know anything about it. we believe you, but we don't know anything about it. And I was like, okay, so that eliminated that. There wasn't anybody around me to tell me. I just knew they were my friends and that I loved them and that they were wherever I went. I had another friend whose parents had a very large piece of property in a pond, and we would go over there to swim. Well, everybody's swimming. I'm scouring around watching out in the field because they would walk out of the tree line and I could see them from a distance everywhere I went. And then as I got older, I was very selective on who I would tell because I didn't want people to think I was crazy. And I didn't talk about it. My mom and my sister never knew about the abductions until 3 years ago. I literally kept this under lock and key. Close friends knew. They absolutely knew. And the thing about it was, as I got older, I was like, okay, why am I normal in every single essence except these things are going on? And you start to doubt your own sanity. Mm-hmm. And so it made me feel better when I was with other people and they watched these things happen to me. Okay. So I got plenty of verification. And then it was, I was getting footprints and I was being able to cast them. And then it was, other people were seeing them as well as I was. Things were going on that they couldn't explain. And I've always, been able to talk to the spirits and the ghosts as well. And, that kind of thing was going on all the time. So it got to be a very well-guarded secret that certain people knew and not only knew about, had witnessed. Once I had witnesses, I was like, yes, okay, now I've got something because I know it's not all in my head. And I knew it wasn't. I felt it in my soul, but I thought, this is bizarre. I would go out on the playground when I was 10 years old. We would be out on the playground and I would see people climbing on the jungle gyms. And I'd be like, don't get up there because when you fall, you're going to get a cut right over this eye and it's going to bleed and it's going to hurt really bad. And they'd be like, oh, you're crazy. You're silly. You did it, whatever. They would go up there, they would fall and it would get hurt exactly where I told them it would be. So the premonitions were coming in hot and heavy. I could tell somebody, please don't do that because this is what's going to happen. If they ignored it, it happened. So I was able to stop a lot of things, and I have been able to stop a lot of bad things from happening throughout my life. But it was just further confirmation, and it made me, where other people might have thought it was crazy, it gave me security because I was like, all right, I can just believe what I know is happening is actually happening. And it did, like now I'm at a point, and I was going to send these to you, and I don't know why I didn't. I've got videos of the UFOs. I've got cryptid photos, that kind of thing. And I've got some stills of the UFOs. So, I've had enough proof of it. We did test the hair samples that we had gotten from the cryptids. And actually, my daughter gets full credit for that. We were out in the woods. My kids grew up with these things around them. And we were out in the woods, and she had found it on one of the fences they had climbed over. So, yeah. And that tested positive for Sasquatch.
Interesting. I was going to ask you, like you said, you go out and you play and you see all these things. Like, did anybody else see them? Because if you're operating at a higher vibration and the people around you aren't, it's possible that, these
they will miss a lot.
They're only appearing to certain people, but you're saying that other people were able to witness these creatures as
well.
Yeah,
they didn't, but you're right on that. Okay. I teach classes on frequency and vibration. And if you're not of a high enough vibration, unless it's one that just doesn't care, your third dimensional brain, because it is a third dimensional brain, will block you from seeing it. You'll see it, but your brain will deny it. So it doesn't really do any good. So the people that did see it, I had talked to them enough about this stuff where they were open to it. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, made a huge difference. So when it happened, and I also had, like with the abductions, there was physical things that were there afterwards as far as proof of it as well. But like with the cryptids, these were people that were able to see it. Children see them because children are high vibrational. Our society and our world has not talked them down to believe they're stupid. So they are open. They are a higher frequency at all times. That's why so many kids see things that the adults don't. And so, there was people. And then as I got older, and especially at one place I lived at in Michigan, the cryptids walked around uncloaked all the time. It was a very relaxed place. They were very comfortable with me. I did a lot of training with them there. They taught me a lot. My kids were there. My kids saw them multiple times. And they just, because of the way the woods were, it was pretty much blocked. They didn't live on the property. They lived about 2 miles away, but they were there daily and they walked around uncloaked all the time. So yeah, my kids did have a lot of experiences. We had pretty much only good experiences there. There was another place we lived where we did have some bad experiences with the ETs that were really not good, life-threatening things. And unfortunately, my kids were there for that as well.
Were those different species of ET, or were they?
Yeah, everybody and I get asked a lot about what is a rake.
Yeah.
My opinion of a rake is probably different than other people's, and that's okay. Like, I respect everybody's opinion on what they think any of this stuff is. I had been warned by the Sasquatch that this thing was coming after me. And that's very common for me because I do work for the Sasquatch. Okay, I have a right to tell them no, but they do send me to different places to do different things, whether it's healings, blessing of graves, change the energy, fix a portal, fix a vortex, whatever. They'll send me to different areas. And the good stuff likes me, but the bad stuff would rather I don't exist. So I have been attacked before. I ended up in intensive care at one point. And so, the good comes with a cost. And so the one place that we lived at, these things, the Sasquatch had said, you have to move and you have to move now. And I was like, what are you talking about? I said, it found you. I said, what found me? There's always something looking for me. And they said, no, you've got to move. So I take that seriously. So I find another place. We're waiting to get into the other place when these things came. We were right in the middle of moving, and was when I got the visual of them. Other than in my mind, I got a physical visual. I'm driving down the road. They literally uprooted a tree and threw it at my car. And it landed directly in front of the vehicle. I hit the brakes. I bumped into the tree, but I didn't do any damage, and it didn't stop the car. But there were two of them, and they were moving right alongside the road through the trees. And they looked exactly like what everybody says a rake looks like. Whether that's it or not, I don't know. These were definitely, I read energy signatures. This was definitely ET energy coming off of them. I personally feel it's a rake. That doesn't mean I'm right. But I didn't see anybody holding up a sign going, this is what we are. So I'm going to go with it. But yeah, and they're dangerous. They came back to the house when I was trying to get my kids out, and it got pretty dicey, and we were able to get out. I did a few things that I was taught by the Sasquatch, got the kids in the car, and we were able to get out, and I didn't have any more problems with them at that point.
Mike Nation would like to know if you could talk about what did it look like the rake that you're describing. What was its first experience? It
was completely white, excessively tall, thin, relatively bony, very long arms, very long fingers. The only facial features that I saw, because I was trying to drive and dodge a tree at the same time, were the eyes looked relatively dark to me, and I could see a little bit of a nose. There was no hair anywhere on the body. It kind of reminded me like of a rubber doll, to be honest with you. And the movement of it was really, it was bizarre. It wasn't just like a human would move, but the bones, like from the shoulder to the elbow and then the elbow to the wrist, were excessively long. And the legs were like that too, but all the body parts on it were thin.
A lot of people believe that the rake is also what people describe as like the Wendigos, the emaciated human spirits and stuff. So it does make sense that and those things.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna say anybody's wrong, because to be very honest, none of us know. Even if we could get the DNA and stay alive doing it, the only thing that would have a chance of having it would be the government, and they're not going to give it to us. Now, I have seen what could possibly be a Wendigo. I've seen two different kinds. I've seen one that it just looks like a rack of bones moving around, and it's got the head and the skeletal, and the horns and everything. Another one I saw, though, did have the head with the horns, but it did have skin over the body, but it was, you could see every vertebrae, every bone in it. Now, what chased my car, I didn't see bones. Like, I didn't see like the outline of a rib cage or a collarbone or I didn't see anything like that. Could it have been there? Yes. I was trying to drive to get away from this thing and keep the car under control. But the two of them that I saw, and when I stopped the car, I turned sideways because I was backing up so I could drive around where the tree had been thrown across the road. And they were standing there. And I didn't see any like bones that were sticking out or where you could see the rib of one. I mean, they were tall, the bones were thin with the skin over it, but none of the bones protruded in any way that I saw.
When you say protruded, do you mean like emaciated, like skin tight?
Yes.
Or do you mean like
Yes.
sticking out, like protruding
Yes.
through the skin?
Yes.
Yes to which?
No, it looked like somebody that was, starved to death.
Gotcha. Yeah. Not
You would,
bones
yeah, it looked like
bones.
somebody, from Ethiopia that, hadn't had food in a very long time. That would be, they didn't look, they were thin, but they did not have that look. They did not have where you could see the bones. Now, the thing that I saw that had the head with the antlers did. That one looked like an Ethiopian starved person. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody when I say that. I don't ever want to hurt anybody's feelings. But, yeah, you could see the bones, whereas they looked like they had been starved, everything, but that one had the head and the horns and a thin skin over it. That's not what I saw that chased me. No.
Gotcha. All right. I would like to back up because you mentioned when you were riding in the car, looking out the window for, the big stuff. And you mentioned watching for the stick structures. So
Yeah.
my question is at such a young age, you said you were 5 or 6 or whatever at the time, what, obviously you knew what you were looking for or what these things were. So what did they tell you that these things were for? What was your impression of them?
Well, through my life, I just have information that I have no idea why I have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I know it. I know it. Okay. I also teach mind speak, and part of mind speak is a sense of knowing. It's not necessarily words. And they would have structures when I was little, like when I was down there and I'd ride my bike down to the sandhills, there were structures inside the tree line. And I would walk out in the woods. I'm supposed to be playing there at the sandhills, and I would go out in the woods with them. And there were structures, some of which they would tell me what they meant, some of which they didn't, probably because I was so little. And I'd say, these are neat. What are these for? And they said, we're talking to each other. We send messages to each other. And some of them we just think look beautiful. And I was like, oh, okay. As I got older, it changed a bit. I got explanation for some, not all. There's kind of a trick to the structures. There's like a border that goes across what is a communication for absolutely all of them. And then each clan will kind of tweak it for members within their clan specifically. So it's like a hidden language that the other clans may not know about. But if it's something that they want another clan to know, like the upright X's, means stay out. If there's a pole on either side that's been put in the ground besides the X, that's not only stay out, it's this is my territory, keep coming in, you're going to die. And that's for the other cryptids. So that's kind of like a blanket that goes across everybody. It's like with their laws. They have, and the best way to explain that would be federal and state laws that we have. We have federal laws that cover all of our United States.
Mm-hmm.
So they have that blanket of laws as well. And then each clan, the leader of that clan, will decide whether or not they're allowed to do certain things. Okay. One of the things that they would decide is, are you allowed to use your abilities in this clan? Or are we going to go old school and you can use telepathy, but that's all you're going to use? Okay. They all are set up for all the abilities because they're high frequency, multidimensional beings. They can be flesh and blood 1 minute. They can be shadow form the next, and then they can cloak. The cloaking is done through vibration. They bend the light because they raise their frequency high enough where they vibrate enough, and that's how they do it. So it depends by the leader of the clan what they're allowed to do. Some clan leaders will allow them to take gifts from us. Others, it's taboo. Doesn't mean some don't break the rule, but it's still, that's the way it goes. They're all born with these abilities. if the children are not told by their parents that they have these abilities and taught to use them, because they are in a clan that doesn't use them, they don't use them. They don't even know they have them any more than we would. But as they get older, let's say they pair up with another one and go to a different clan, that one might be using all the abilities, then they will be taught and they can access them.
Interesting. What is your opinion on these balls of light, these orbs that people see in the woods occasionally?
The balls of there's a couple different things. The orbs, number one, all the cryptids can create orbs. They're just made out of frequency and energy. That's all they are. But there also are beings that will be inside these orbs. They have their own, some of the orbs are not regular orbs. While they may look the same, they are not all the same. Some of these orbs have their own thought process. I have got it verified through people that I have worked with and what I've seen myself. They'll see little beings inside these orbs. Mm-hmm. You know, I had one that was a light blue color, and a friend of mine and I had went out in the woods. We were parked in the woods. We knew the Sasquatch were moving through there, and we're just like parked out there watching. We're not bothering anybody. We're just watching. And this blue orb, and this is one that nobody created. It was its own little entity. And it was about the size of a tire. And it was darting all over through the woods. It was light blue. And it stopped almost like it was noticing we were there. And then it came down and lined up parallel to where the truck was. And from my door, I could look off to my right and see it very clearly. And it was like 3 or 4 feet off the ground. It just hovered there. And then all of a sudden it came barreling at the car door. Like it was going to hit the car door. And we're sitting there going like, what do? You're okay. Who's going to believe you're being chased by an orb? And it came up to the door. And as soon as it got to the door, it just dissipated. Huh. And I had one night that I looked out my bedroom window. It was dark out. And I look out and I see this multicolored orb just suspended in the air. And I was like, what in the world? So I walk out on the front porch and I'm watching this thing. And it went from all these swirl of colors. It was absolutely gorgeous. Like I was mesmerized. Swirl of colors. And then all of a sudden it went to where you saw nothing but darkness. And it looked like little stars, you know, little light white dots, you know, that would, like if you were in space. And then it looked like it got sucked up, like if somebody sucked it up through a straw, and it was gone. And I said, you know, who are you? And all I heard was the word friend. I said, okay, what was that? Like, what is that about? And they said, we saw your world, now you saw ours. And I have never to this day seen this thing again. I don't know what it was about, why. It didn't cause any harm. It didn't bother anybody. You know, it was just crazy. But I've watched the Sasquatch make orbs and toss them up in the air and play baseball. Like, they're not playing baseball, but like you would a baseball, you throw it up in the air. They, one night, there was a bunch of them out in my front yard, and they were just tossing these orbs. And I was like, what are you guys doing? And they said, we're having a magic party. I said, what do you mean you're having a magic party? You know, I mean, what kind of magic are you going to do that you haven't already done? You know? And they were out there for the longest time, and then they just left. I don't know what they ever did, but I didn't go out with them. I was like, this is getting, you know, there's just too many out there. I watched it from the house, and that was it.
Do you know of any of the creatures or entities or anything that maybe use these things as a weapon or something? Because we've heard a lot of stories like
use the orbs.
Yeah, in the books like recounting tales from like Skinwalker Ranch and Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, they talk about how a lot of the encounters where people have had physical contact with these orbs all end up getting an autoimmune disease. So
that would be, yeah, I can. I've not seen, like, I've seen where the cryptids have like thrown an orb, you know, like you would a ball. I have not personally been attacked by one other than when it came at the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, they would absolutely have that reaction. And I can tell you why. All of these things, Sasquatch, dogman, cat people, goat man, the, you know, lizard man, all of these things, elementals, dimensionals. The reason they have the abilities they have is the frequency. We live in a 3-dimensional body. We are actually much more than that. We have a higher frequency through our consciousness and through the soul. And because of that part of us is a high frequency. But unfortunately, we live in a 3rd-dimensional body. A 3rd-dimensional body cannot handle that high of a frequency. Okay. So what happens is it reacts to that frequency, which is exactly what an orb is. An orb is nothing but a very excessively high frequency. And so the body reacts to it like radiation. Okay. Sasquatch, they bury their dead. That's why nobody finds them. But on the ones that they have been able to obtain, if you were to take one of those Geiger counters that test for radiation,
Mhm.
they've been used on live ones and dead ones. And they will, even dead, they will throw massive quantities of radiation. Now, some of the clans that I work with, they will walk right up to me. They'll get within like 2 feet. And what happens is it feels like this unbelievable weighted blanket. If anybody thinks that they're not going to feel it, they are sadly mistaken, because it does. If they are ones that use the frequencies and the abilities. Now, I've had some of them that didn't use as many of them, and I couldn't feel it very much. The other thing is they can pull it back and withdraw it. It's important to know that it radiates off them. They're not doing it on purpose. It's not like, oh, this person's here, I'm going to make sure I do this to the point it makes them sick. No, they don't put diseases in your body. They can make you sick when they zap you, yes, but they're not going to give you cancer and tumors and all these other things. They can't do that. Number one, it goes against their laws. But two, they can't do that. But excessive contact with that kind of energy can give you things like the autoimmune disease. And for the record, I also have an autoimmune disease that's supposed to be hereditary, that absolutely nobody in my family has for generations and generations. So is it possible from that? Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the woods with these guys. Now that I know that it can affect your health, when I'm out with them, I ask them to pull it back. And I very seldom do I have any that won't. I do a lot of healing work on these guys. And yes, they can heal as well, but a lot of times they want our help as well, or they'll want things done that requires our frequency and theirs. And so they need both of us. And, there's one in particular that he's got some power to that boy. I'm telling you. And he will walk right up to me. I'd been mind speaking with him for years. And when I was there in the physical with him, he walked right up. It was so overpowering. I was standing next to the vehicle and I had to lean back. And I was like, big guy, I love you, but you got to pull it back a little bit. And he did, so it was more comfortable. I could still feel it, but it was much more comfortable that way. They don't do it to hurt anybody. It's part of their body chemistry. And it's what keeps them safe.
When you talked about the feeling of like the weighted blanket,
oh yeah,
we hear the stories of this, like the zapped or the it's escaping me right now. The low frequency vibration. I can't think of the word at the moment, but do you believe that is like this radiation?
Yeah, what they do when they're zapping somebody that they don't like, or if they're trying to get you to back off and they don't want that altercation where they've got to physically come at you. People talk about all the time, I got zapped. What they do is they pull a ball of frequency together. They have in their mind the intent of where they want it to go and what they want it to do. You can get anything from a mild headache to a heart attack. And I have been next to people that are next to my shoulder and they got dropped on the ground and nothing was done to me. It's not because I'm all that special, trust me. I can get zapped just as much as anybody else can. I have never done that, knock on wood, but I'm sure my time's coming. I never say never, because I can get it just as much as anybody else. I'm not any different. They choose. And they can be so precise that you can be in a group of people. And if there's one person that they find has bad energy, low frequency, their intent is not what they're telling everybody else it is, but they're there to harm, and they are fearful of that one person, they will drop them to the ground and everybody else will be spared. They have that much control of it. When I teach frequency classes and I teach people how to move the energies and the frequencies, I stress to them, it's not just about being able to pull up that high frequency and get that energy. You have to be able to control it. You have to be able to move it and know exactly where your target is, what you're going to do. We never use frequency and energy to hurt. But if you want to change the space that you're in to make it a higher frequency, so it's more, more desirable for you, where you're more comfortable, if you're a high frequency person, you want to do that. If you go into some place that feels just really nasty and dark and you want to change the frequency, there's not one person out there that can't do this. You are not all that special, to be able to do it. It's part of what we can do when we get out of that third dimension and go into the higher frequencies. And the Sasquatch is no different. And so they're the ones that taught me all the frequency stuff. So that's what they do. It's almost like they ball it up, and their intent is they manifest, and their intent goes where they want it to go and what they want it to do. And that's how they do it. And they don't have to be, just for the record, they don't have to be standing right there where you can see them to do it. You can get nailed when they're anywhere. If you've gone out in their woods and you've done something wrong to them, and they want to still zap you, you can be sitting at home in your living room and get nailed. Because when you are dealing with any form of telepathy or doing remote work, which I also do, there is no distance.
Mm-hmm.
There is no distance. So they are very capable of doing it. It all comes from manifestation, intent, and frequency.
Absolutely. And I did think of the word infrasound as well. Thank you. And then
yes,
friends and Lee both have chimed in with infrasound. That was exactly what I was trying to think of. So
yes.
Yeah.
And infrasound is basically radiation. I mean, to us, it is a different thing, but that's how it works.
Yeah. No, I mean, here's the thing is, like you mentioned this again before we went on the air, there's such, and don't get me wrong, this sounds crazy, the stuff that you're talking about,
mm-hmm.
but the stuff, ironically enough, a lot of this stuff actually does make sense, whether, it's taught by you by Sasquatch or the universe or whatever, because one of the things that, mediums and stuff, where they're taught is to create balls of energy and manipulate it in their hands and stuff. And I was thinking about that while you're talking, is this is, used to center and ground and, use that frequency and stuff. So if we're talking about mediums and empaths and all this stuff being able to create these balls of energy, there's no reason that other creatures and others, it all makes sense.
They're so far ahead of us, and it's like, I talk to the angels as well. I'm a Christian, and for the record, I get a lot of questions on this. The cryptids are extremely and excessively spiritual. They believe in Creator, Tahoe, whatever you want. Whatever clan has it termed and whatever, but they do. And there are certain clans that will talk about our world is a matrix. Okay, it's not what we see. That's just for the third dimension, but it's a matrix. We've got a bunch of layers of planes. And they talk about going to the plane that Jesus is on and sitting at the base of the throne. These are very spiritual beings. And a lot of people are like, they're demonic, they're Nephilim. No, they're not. If you really want to piss them off, tell them they're Nephilim. That will make them madder than you've ever seen them. And, but they are. They very much are. And, it's funny, like you had made the comment, it makes sense. When somebody gets hold of me to teach any of these classes, and I teach anything paranormal, but sometimes I'll say, why don't you call me first and let's talk and then see if this is really what you want. You know what I mean? Because I don't ever want to push anything of my beliefs on anybody. I don't do that. And I'm not offended when people don't believe me, because it's the life I've lived. I don't expect everybody to believe me. In fact, the first thing I do with people is I teach them that they are a human lie detector because of if you read the energies, and I teach them how to tell if someone's lying or telling the truth. And I'm like, feel free to use it on me all the time. I don't even care. But when they call, the first thing that they'll do is they'll listen to what I'm saying, and they'll be like, oh my God, this makes sense. Like, this is like filling in the blanks. And I'm like, I know. And it's really not stuff that's difficult. It's different than what we've been taught, because in that third dimension, we are controlled. Our third dimensional brain is a little tiny box that only allows certain information in, and any information that comes in that isn't within the perimeters of that, it either removes from our brain, or it tells us that it's wrong or it's a lie, because it can't deal with facts other than what is in those perimeters. And that's because it's third dimension. Once you raise your frequency to be in a higher frequency, the amount of information that you get and you learn is astounding. And it's like, oh my God, now this is real. And people find out who they really are. We stay pretty much out of alignment and out of balance in the third dimension, because for everybody, whether they accept a higher frequency and dimension or not, you need 1 foot in the third dimension because we have a physical body, and you need 1 foot in a higher frequency because your soul, your consciousness, your essence, all of those things are of a higher frequency. God is of a higher frequency. And so you have to have 1 foot in each side until you achieve that. Not that you don't have a good life and a happy life, but for some people, I never say everybody, but for some people, you still stay out of balance. You still feel like the round peg in the square hole. You still feel like you're supposed to be doing something that you're not supposed to do. And so that's where I come in and I teach them what I've been taught. And then, like they get to find their true selves. And they're like, I feel more like me now than I've ever felt in my life. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work like that for everybody, but for the people that are open to it and want it, it does. But they always say to me, oh my gosh, this does make sense. And I'm like, I know. I was just as shocked as everybody else when I heard it.
All right, we have a couple questions here. We're going to bounce around a little bit, but Lee Warner would like to know, you said that you have telepathy or mind speak with the Sasquatch. Do you also have ability to talk with other animals?
Oh, absolutely. I talk to animals, trees, rocks, plants, ETs. I've talked to, remember when Admiral Byrd years ago when he went to Antarctica, the master? I've talked to the master. There's actually 4 masters. They rotate every 2.5 life years, Earth years. And anything out there, that's why when I do teach people to mind speak, I teach them how to read energy signatures, because if you're going to mind speak, you've got to read energy signatures. Energy signatures cannot be faked. They cannot be lied about. So if someone comes to you and tells you they're the most wonderful thing, but that they're not, they're a killer of some kind, their energy is going to show it. So you can't fake it. So like, let's say you're mind speaking with a Sasquatch named Bob, and you talk to Bob every day and you don't know how to read energy signatures. One day he comes in and says, oh yeah, I'm Bob. It could be the devil incarnate. You have to know how to do the energy signatures. If you're going to be in the higher frequencies, you have to do it safely. You have to. Like dream state. Dream state is a real place. People think, oh, it's just dream state. No, it's not. It's another plane. You can get hurt. You can get killed. I got my arm broken dream state. And, try telling that to the emergency room doctor. You can't. Okay. It was like, oh, I just fell down the steps, and I left it at that. So, yeah.
Very interesting. Lee also would like to know, have you ever had any precognition of airplane crashes?
I want to say no. The closest I've ever come to that is if I knew somebody was going to be on a flight and I would get a feeling that flight was going to be a problem, that it wasn't a safe flight. And so I would tell that person and they would change their flight, and something always did happen with the flight. But as far as sitting at home and, oh my gosh, this is going to happen there, I have had situations happen, but not particularly with an airplane. Like, I've warned people of a car crash. You're going to have a car crash if you go here and you go this way and this way. And I had one person that when that happened, I said, the car you're driving isn't going to work. You'll roll it. You're going to get killed. And they switched to a bigger vehicle. And when the accident happened, they were safe. So I am able to warn at some, it was a girlfriend of mine was going to see her boyfriend. And I was like, no, that's not going to work. So, I've had things like that. I've gotten where, people I know were going to go do something. And I'm like, this is not the time. I get a lot of people that contact me and say, this is what I'm planning on doing. Is it safe for me to go? So I try.
Very cool. We are live, as you may or may not have noticed. We are taking questions from the audience. If you guys have any questions or comments that you'd like to share with Robin, throw them in the comments section. Try and put them in all caps so that I can clearly see them over there, and we will get to them. You had mentioned that you had some videos and pictures. Is there anywhere that people can view those, or
If you have a website, I am happy to share them with you, and you can put them up.
Sure. Okay, I can do that. We can put it
I
up.
don't have a YouTube channel. I have my website for my business, but I don't put the pictures there. That's a business thing. I have shared them rarely on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I don't talk a lot on Facebook because most people don't listen anyway. So, and I'm always really surprised that anybody even wants to hear what I have to say. So I just don't bother with it. But yeah, I work with people all over the globe. So I'm usually working with people anyway. So I don't have a lot of time, but I am more than happy to send. I can send you the UFO video.
Okay.
Which is really kind of cool. In fact, this UFO video, I'm not going to take credit for it. My son-in-law did it from my front porch. I was there when he did it, but he's the one that took it. And I personally, and I could be wrong on this because I haven't checked with anybody, I think it's one of the Palladian ships, but it was in a distance. You can see it. It's multicolored, spinning lights around it. And it released 2 crafts off the back. One was like a red orbish thing, and the other one had lights on it. But I did screen capture them, and you can the darker one with the white lights on it. You can see the whole shape of the ship, the windows, all of it. Like I did screen capture some of these and bring them up close. So I'm going to send you those as well. Okay,
Cool.
But he sent it to MUFON, and MUFON looked at it and said it was not terrestrial. They checked the skies that night. There were no planes out. There was no anything. And that it was definitely UFO. In fact, they used it at one of their top symposiums 2 years ago.
Very cool.
So my son-in-law didn't get credit for it, but it was his. But I will send it to you. I've had ships laying in my yard, like I was telling you about the one prior to the show. Yeah, it gets crazy. I'm going to also send you another picture that you might enjoy. This was taken, I put a security camera up, not because I was trying to get pictures of the Sasquatch, but I get a lot of wildlife in my front yard. And when you go to the window, then they take off. So if I put the security cams up, I could go on an app on my phone and I can watch the deer and all these other things. So that's why I did it. And eventually the Sasquatch didn't like it, and they zapped him and took him out 2 times. So I said, forget it. But it got on the security footage by my garage. You're going to see, and I've got it circled and marked, 3 dots, which are a small triangular craft.
Okay.
What's interesting about that is what is below the craft. Under the craft, you are going to see an open portal, and you will see a head sticking out of the portal. And yeah, it's unbelievable. And then I also have a zoomed in of the portal itself, and it has the bulbous head and 2 black eyes that you can see coming out of the portal. And then I have another one that will show, and it didn't, because the camera didn't reach far enough, didn't show the craft it came from, but there's a giant beam of light that comes down on my bedroom. And I didn't realize that this was even going on because I wasn't on the thing at the time, and I was also abducted that night. So, but I will send you those because they're kind of interesting to look at. And if you want to put them up, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, that's fine. Not a problem. And I do have some of the cryptids that I can send over as well, as good as they are. And just so everybody knows, the reason cryptid photos are blurry is the frequency. That frequency messes with the cameras. The worst thing that happened for us with photos is our cameras are digital. If you notice on the Patty film, it's not a digital camera. Look at how clear Patty is. Okay, Patty also didn't use a lot of paranormal abilities. There's a lot of stuff that went on with that. People should pay more attention to MK Davis. But also, when you go to take a picture, if you're outside and you happen to see one standing there, not that that happens a lot, do not put them in the center of the frame.
Okay.
Put them off to the side, take a picture of a tree nearby or whatever you want to take a picture of. Don't focus your camera on them, because when you do, that frequency will screw it up. And also it makes it easier for them to mess with it, and it makes it even blurrier. Okay. The other secret to getting a picture of them, if you think they're out there, go outside, take your phone. They do better with camera phones. They're not as afraid of the phones. And I'll explain that why in a minute than their camera. Take pictures, go click, 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 click in a circle and take random pictures. Then go inside and blow them up. If they are there and they are cloaked, they will show up as if they are flesh and blood because they are so busy raising that frequency and bending the light to keep themselves cloaked. It's not that they can't mess with the camera at the same time, because they can, and they can still blur it a little bit, but they're usually think, well, they can't see us anyway because we're cloaked. And then you get photos. I would say 90% of my photos are done that way. So just kind of like an FYI for people that, you know, are wanting to see some of these things. And that goes for elementals. It goes for pukwudgies. It goes for dogmen. Anything paranormal, that's basically how it works. That frequency is what blurs everything. It really is. And if you've got to get them off the center. Now, they do better with photos from your phone opposed to a camera. Now, you know, Igor Borstad, Steph and I are friends, and he's always drilling it in my head. You got to use a camera. You got to use a camera. They hate cameras. We know this. But everything is frequency. Everything. Their entire world is based on it. They know your body frequency. What do we always carry everywhere we go? Our cell phones. So they know it's a separate frequency, but it's paired with you and you're not bothering them. So when you're out with them, they're picking up the frequency from the cell phone that you carry everywhere you go on a regular basis when you're not bothering or hurting anybody and yours. They are much better to deal with that, opposed to if you bring a camera, now they know what your intent is and now they're worried and it makes them nervous because that's not what's normally on your person all the time. So, you know, another FYI.
I mean, you know, just from a science standpoint, you know, if we believe that these things can read vibration and all that stuff,
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. It really does.
I know.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff does. A lot of it does. You know, it's like, and I understand why not everybody believes everything I say. And I'm really and truly, I'm okay with that as long as people are kind. I don't expect anybody to, I don't try to force it on anybody. It's a lot to take in. It's easy for me to take in because I don't know anything different. Like for me, everybody's normal life, that blows my mind. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. This is normal to me. And this is stuff that I've been taught by them forever. You know, like the teachings don't stop. They start when you enter the world and they don't stop until you leave it. And then it picks back up in your next lifetime. You know, and I talk to them through MindSpeak. I talk to them verbally. I work with them remotely. I work with them in the physical, you know, and like I said, I've got witnesses that'll prove it. And, you know, I don't even try to prove it to anybody. I'm pretty open about it. I don't hold back. You know, are there things that they've taught me that I don't share? 100%. 100%, because I know there's certain things and I will never share something that will help hurt them. I've been fighting to protect these things my whole life and I will continue. Are there bad ones? Yes. Everybody needs to be aware there's good and bad in everything. Look at our humans. We have murderers, pedophiles, psychopaths, all of these things on top of really good, kind, wonderful people that we're blessed to have with us. It is like that with everything. It's a cosmic balance. If you don't have the bad, you can't appreciate and understand the good. And if you only have good, the only way to keep everybody pure and good is to do bad things to remove the bad. So this is why there's that cosmic balance. Absolutely. Now, people should know there's a lot of ETs right now. There's always been them that lived on Earth, but we've got more ships than ever. People, don't be afraid. It's fine. They're here for a purpose. There's an energetic shift that's been going on for quite some time. They're just here to assist. So I don't want anybody freaking out.
Fair enough. Lee Warner says she might have missed it. Where are you actually from, like located?
I was born and raised in Michigan. I'm in South Carolina now, but I am moving to Texas. I have land out there, so I will be moving there.
And from the Bat Mom, Miss Robin is the real deal with her gifts. From what I have personally experienced, she was able to shed light on a bad situation that I had a few years ago. She gave me peace that I didn't know. There you go.
I'm going to tell you something. She is a wonderful, wonderful woman. Thank you, Bat Mom. I miss you, girl. We need to talk. She is absolutely lovely. She has one of the biggest and kindest hearts that anybody can even understand. She's just a wonderful human being. She's another person that I've worked with that I'm just so blessed. Like, I work with a lot of people. Like I said, I work with people all over the globe. And I will say this, I have been very fortunate because some of the best people I've ever met in my life are because they found me. And I was honored that they allowed me, just like with Bat Mom. It was an honor to help her. I would help her hands down any day of the week, follow her into battle and never bat an eye. But I've met some of the best people in my life through helping people with this stuff. And she was one of them. She's just amazing. I thought about her the other night. I was wondering how she was doing.
Oh, there she is. Awesome. Well, we are, I think we're all caught up on the questions and stuff for you here. So I think it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, you've,
oh, thank you.
Whether you believe the stories or not, I mean, there's so much interesting stuff there that, for people that study either metaphysical or paranormal or Sasquatch and these cryptids, I mean, there is a lot that ties in there. And I don't know, like, there's no experts. Nobody really knows.
No, there isn't.
Ties some links there that maybe a lot of people haven't thought of before. And I think that's really cool. So
yeah, thank you. And I get a lot of people that'll be like, the one thing about you is the stories never change. And my response to that is, I can't change the truth. Like, the truth doesn't change. It is what it is. So, yeah. It's like, when I've gone through portals. I was taken to where they actually live, not the temporary teepees that everybody sees. And, all of these things are incredible and out there, and I know it, but try living it. I mean, really, and you're standing there, like when I went through the portal, and I do portal work, they taught me how, but at that time they had not taught me portal work. I didn't even know I was going to go through it until they told me to touch a bush, and I did. Next thing I know, I'm somewhere else. And I had people with me, and they had me like get away from these people in order to do this. But anyway, it's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around, but when you leave that perimeters of that third dimensional brain and you think about it, it does tie a lot in. It really does. It did for me anyway when they were teaching it to me. And I hope it does for other people as well.
Last question here from Lee Warner would like to know, do you channel other beings and stuff?
I mean, as far as letting them take over myself and talk through me, has it happened without my consent? Yes. Do I do that on a regular basis? No. But what I do for everybody is I do communicate with them. I get messages sent back and forth, and that way they can have a conversation with them and go back. So yeah, can I do it? Yes. Do I do it? No, I don't like it. I am that person that I don't like to be not in control of myself. Has it happened before? Yeah, it has. It has. And nothing bad's happened. But generally what happens is they'll get like halfway in and I'll still be coherent enough and they'll be like, okay, tell them this, tell them this, tell them this. And when I work with people, it's really funny because it's like I'm trying to work with them. And at the same time, I've got 50 things talking in my brain going, okay, now we can get a message to this person. Tell them this, tell them this, tell them this. And I'm like, just give it a minute. I will get to it.
Absolutely. Yep. Final thought. Well, before we get to the final thought, where can people find you? Anybody that's just listening, I do have your website in the show notes, but do you have a YouTube channel as well? And,
I don't.
Yeah.
I am so busy. I mean, I'm on there. Have I ever used it? Absolutely not. I wouldn't even know how. But I'm on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes. There is one with the middle initial. Mine is the one without the middle initial. So just FYI on that. And then if anybody is interested in any services, they can check out the website. You said you've got it up, but I answer everybody. A lot of people are like, well, we didn't try to reach you because we didn't think you'd respond. I respond to everybody. If I haven't responded, that means I did not get the message because I literally spend hours a day responding to everybody.
That's very, very good. Very, very helpful to people. Awesome. All right. And final thought, what tie this whole thing together? What do you want people to take away from everything that you've spoken about today?
Nothing pertaining to me. Just realize our earth is going through a change. It's going to a higher frequency. We need to go with it. Okay, our bodies are changing from carbon-based to crystalline, which is going to cause some changes within you as well. It's going to be fine, but it's a necessary change. Just be open to the experience. Be open that there is more out there than what our third dimensional brain tells us, because we're more than that. We're worth more than that. Everybody is. And we do have a side of us that is not tapped into, and it's all gotten to through frequency, energy, and light. And we need to work as a world, not only with all these other beings, but with ourselves through the collective consciousness. The law of Ra is real. It's the law of one. And the reason that these other beings succeed and our people fail is because we refuse to work with it. We need to work through the collective consciousness, and that will benefit everybody. Doesn't mean we have to like each other all the time, but it does mean there is a benefit to it. And just be open to the frequency changes, because there's a lot of them right now. That's why everybody's acting so wonky and nobody's sleeping well and everybody's tired. Their bodies are changing, and, you know, bump up your protein, bump up your water.
Awesome. Good advice, no matter where you come from, no matter what. Always.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it has been enlightening. It has been informative and very, very fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. You take care. You have a great day.
Take care.
All right, guys, that is it for Robin today. So whether, you know, I want to address a couple things here. If you guys tuned in on this past week to some of my other shows, MK Davis is not going to be the guest on Squatch and Holler tonight. Daryl Denton and Ron Moorhead will be live tonight on the Untold Radio Network. If you know, go check that episode out, because it should be just as interesting as one of the other recent episodes of Monsters on the Edge. So if you guys want to go check that out, tonight, 7 p.m. Central Time, it will be Daryl Denton and Ron Moorhead talking about skulls and islands and photographs. So should be a great show. And Lisa's great guest. Glad you didn't have to turn your hat around. Awesome. Thank you, Lee. All right, guys. With that being said, I hope you guys can all tune in to Squatch and Holler tonight, 7 p.m. on the Untold Radio Network. It should be a great show. Definitely some interesting guests there. I know I will be tuning in tonight to get my questions answered as well. So with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed our guest today, Robin Haynes. Amazing, awesome stuff. You know, whatever you believe, there's a lot of information there that has a lot of impact. So I don't know, something to think about. Her website is in the show notes for anyone interested, as well as all the links to Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. Make sure you go check her stuff out. Give her a like. Well, I guess you can't. She doesn't have a Facebook, or, you know, go check out the website. Give her a message. You know, support her. Whatever you got. That's it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share all things here on the Untold Radio Network, Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. And later tonight, check out Squatch and Holler. That's all I got for you for this week. Remember, we're all part of the Paranormal Spectrum. Take care, be well, and I'll see you next week.
You seem to know something I don't. What's going on?